But Michigan, a 2.5 point underdog on the road at Washington. Total is 41.5 in this one.
So this game actually opened up Michigan favored by 1.5, and the sharp action flipped it. So something to be aware of there. Michigan, they have responded well they've won three in a row after their drubbing versus Texas, but those three wins were by a combined 16 points. They really should have blown the doors off Minnesota, let them creep back into that game. Only 3-point win. Wisconsin, meanwhile, is coming off.
Washington.
Washington is coming off a loss in their Big Ten opener against Rutgers and Piscataway, despite putting up five. What?
I'm sorry, just play with Washington against Rutgers in a conference game just blows my mind. Apologies. Yeah. I mean, it was a long travel all the way to Pullman, Washington for UW. But here's this. Try to go to East Rutherford, New Brunswick or whatever the heck, somewhere out in Staten Island, New York, for the State University of New Jersey. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
But one of my favorite tweets from last weekend was this Oregon account being like, oh, they said the Big Ten was going to be too physical for us. They said it's a different style of play. Well, who's talking now? And it was responding to the Oregon score against UCLA. um,
Hell yeah.
but yeah, Big Ten football, Washington at Rutgers. But so this all comes down to if Washington can, one, stop the run, and two, take care of the balls where Michigan doesn't get any cheap points like they did against USC.
Yep.
They're only 40th in the country in rushing defense, but they got a guy by the name of Belichick
Ooh.
coaching them up.
Ooh.
Steve, that is, who might be a huge dummy. I used to work with a guy who was in the same conference as Steve Belichick in high school, and every single time they played Steve Belichick's school in lacrosse, Steve Belichick was suspended for weed. So he might be a big dummy, stoner dummy. Also, those facial tongue stuff is off. But anyway, I believe in him. I believe in him. And two, Washington takes care of the football. They have turned the ball over twice this season. Their quarterback, Will Rogers, has 0 interceptions. There is not going to be any cheap points for Michigan to have. The tailgate scene in Seattle is awesome. That crowd's going to be ready to go. I like the Huskies.
I'm There's so many ways to analyze that one. So the tailgate scene in Seattle, I know I got super drunk and more than that, unfortunately, at
Sailgating.
sailgating, right, at a Seattle Mariners event. But I guess in what's one thing leads to another out there in Washington. Long way to travel for Michigan. I'm going to join you with Washington -2.5. Not just because Steve Belichick taught actually my roommate's little brother how to beat drug tests at the State University of New Jersey, but I think that just might be a theme in this podcast. I'm not even ever. Did I even tell you that story before? It's funny how that all kind of overlaps. I guess what you can take away from this
We
podcast,
got time.
besides us going in like an incredible run and having an all green graphic from last week that I forgot to retweet, or I think I might have retweeted on my podcast feed instead of my actual at the real underscore T Warner. But regardless, that's going to happen sooner rather than later. With that said, Steve Belichick really maybe not great at defense, but you got friends in high places or dads in high places. And I think this is going to be a really tough situation. We've seen the number, as you say, already flip. That makes me want to back that home favorite. And I'll go with Washington -2.5 as our first simultaneous best bet on this week 6 episode.